Good morning, everyone. Our first video for 2025. Welcome and Happy New Year. We're looking forward to seeing where the markets go this year, but more importantly, way forward beyond this year. So I'll start off by saying that this is a financial education presentation. You must do your own due diligence on anything that you hear in this presentation. More disclaimer information can be found on ankerstarwealth.com, and the opinions expressed are mine and Corey's alone. So what we're going to talk about today isn't so much specific to today and exactly what's happening in this market, whatever news is breaking, which happens every day. There's always news constantly floating around. But I'm going to talk about what happened in 2024, just kind of take a quick look back on some of the charts and then look back even further, back to 1970. Let's look at a 50-year graph. We'll take a look at and see how the markets have done. And then Corey's going to talk about Social Security. So there's another thing. It's 50 years back, 50 years forward. These are long-term topics. So let me go back and we're going to look at a one-year graph of the S&P 500. So I have this on my screen so you can see 1 year. And when you look at this chart, you can say it is definitely not straight up. There's little dips along the way, but in the end, it's pretty much straight up. I mean, 23% gain on the year. And you can see, yeah, we had, and if you remember going through this, if you listen to the show, which we're paying attention to this stuff every day, so you don't have to, but we had a dip in April, market shot up to July, and that's when it was hitting all-time highs. Certainly on the tech side, it was very exciting. Then sold off in August. The Fed finally started cutting rates in September, so there was a lot of excitement in that. And you were like, oh yeah, the rates to refinance my house are going to come down, and they came down a little bit. Market continued to increase. Then we hit the election, and we always had this election uncertainty because it really felt like a 50-50 thing. Trump got elected, the markets shot up higher. You're like, oh boy, it's just so much good news. I think at one point the S&P was up 28%, somewhere right around there. It was even better than it was in 2023. And then in December we had a little bit of sell-off. The long-awaited Santa Claus rally did not happen in my opinion. There was a few updates, but I think Santa gave us.
No, statistically it was 2 years in a row, no Santa. What's going on? We must have been bad.
The Santa rally happened in November around Black Friday, and then Santa returned his gifts. I think
somebody was naughty. It wasn't me, but somebody in the market was naughty, and we paid it. We paid.
Oh, well, I mean, and these are all just blips. So you can look at a one-year graph and you can say, boy, if I invested at the beginning in January and held to this January, I am doing very, very well. I'm just using the S&P 500 as an overall example of the entire market. We can look at the NASDAQ. I think it was a little bit more volatile, but ended up a little higher. I'm not going to focus on the NASDAQ today. And we're certainly clearly more closely tied to the NASDAQ with our high-tech holdings. So you say 1 year, and of course the question will always be, and we'll be hitting this in there in the next couple of weeks as we put out some stuff for all of our investors, is where's the market going to go this year? And I can tell you that I cannot tell from day to day, week to week. I can't say what the market's going to do tomorrow or even next month. All I can look at is historical data and make our best investing decisions in high quality companies that we believe are going to do well, which that's what we should be investing in. And then we let things work out. So I said, let's take a look back 50 years. And our friends at First Trust send me this, which I love. This is a 50-year graph of the S&P 500 back to 1970. So it's actually 54 years. And if you would have put $10,000 back then, why didn't my parents do this when I was born the year before? Put in $10,000, you would have $2.9 million let's not worry about the tax consequences of all that. But if you put 10,000 in a Roth that did not exist back then, you would have $2.9 million of tax-free money. And all along the way, geopolitical events happened, crazy things happened, anything from 9/11 to the great financial crisis, to the fall of the Berlin Wall, the first ever PC, the birth of the iPhone. All this happened, but when you look at a 50-year graph, wow, it is almost straight up. There's certainly some highs and lows, some little dips, and that volatility is why we get that kind of return over a long period of time. So, will the next 50 years look like this graph? I hope so. And maybe today's the day you're putting in the 10,000, and 50 years from now is when you want to get the 2.9 million, or whatever those numbers might be. So it just goes to show that a lot of geopolitical things happen, a lot of concerns, and we love to talk about these things. They're always, on people's minds, and but in the end, the market tends to be up, certainly over a 50-year period. The other graph I wanted to show, and this is one of my favorite charts, and I've seen this a few different ways. This shows the blue lines, or the darker boxes, is what the market ended up in the or up or down in the year. And the yellow or orange, like lower lines, is the biggest pullback it had. So in 2024, the market ended up, S&P 500 ended up 23%. But was it a straight ride? No. At one point, the market pulls back 8% from that all-time high. So in the previous year, it was up 24%, but at one point it pulled back 10%. So when you're looking at your financials and you're like, wow, I'm doing really good, and the market pulls back 10%, it can feel painful in the moment, but it's normal. It's expected. And you can see that happens almost every year. There's I'd say looks like 2017 had the least pullback. It was only 3%, but 8 to 10% pullback in a year is normal and to be expected. And if you hold on for the entire year, most of those blue lines are on the upper side. There are some years the market goes down, and we don't know. 2025 could be one of those, but it tends to come back over the long term. So when I think of things declining or concerns day to day, I look at a chart like this and say, okay, this is to be expected, and then I can look at this one and feel very confident that in the long term things will go up. So obviously we make decisions to invest in the best companies. This graph this is not a company specific graph. So please be aware of that. There are companies that go bankrupt. If you put your money in, I hate to say it, one of my old companies, General Motors in 1970 was, I think, the biggest company, highest market cap in the world. It went bankrupt in 2008. So this would not be the graph for General Motors, but the overall markets this is. So that's why we invest in those companies. So with that, Corey, things that are going to last forever, right? Social Security. I will turn it over to you.
Yeah.
I hope it lasts forever, so you get some.
I've seen a chart similar to what you just showed for NVIDIA. It turned 10,000 into 3 million, but it was a little shorter time frame. It was like 15 years or something insane. Okay, so I don't know if you're familiar, but there was some news that came out I think just before Christmas, and I didn't get to cover it then. We didn't have a show, but the Senate passed the Social Security Fairness Act. It's still waiting for final signature from Biden, potentially coming on Monday the 6th. But it's kind of correcting like the opposite of a loophole. So you think about, oh, I had a loophole, that's a good thing. Well, this was like a trap. There was like a trap for certain people who were police officers, firefighters, bus drivers, teachers, and local, state, county, local government workers. So there was a few different traps that were set. One was if you worked at a school or a district or municipality, whatever, that had its own retirement system. Like here in Texas, I worked as a teacher, and we paid into what's called TRS, so the Teacher Retirement System of Texas. In some of those places, you pay Social Security and you pay TRS, and you pay in your full required amount. But come retirement time, there was an issue called the windfall elimination provision, where, oh, because you're getting TRS, you can't get full Social Security, even though you did pay the full amount. And it's like, well, wait, I pay, like, can I get back what I paid in? Then can I get back half what I paid in because I was paying the full amount? And it's like, well, no, it's the opposite of a loophole. You got trapped, even though you kind of paid for both. There was another scenario that's even worse, where if your spouse worked a Social Security job, but you worked one of these other pension jobs, and your spouse, passed away, your spousal Social Security benefit would be cut dramatically because you were receiving a separate pension. But if you were a Social Security spouse, both of you were Social Security, well, then you'd get the full spousal benefits because you didn't have this weird opposite loophole thing going on. So this is correcting that. There's a lot of people out there who paid into both and deserve both. That was kind of what they committed to, right, in their jobs. And then there's a lot of those spouses out there who are being unfairly punished. I even knew of a teacher who, they found out that they started teaching, they married someone, but this person they married, their family tended to have pretty low life expectancy. That was just a genetic thing. And they were going to need that person's Social Security benefits. So they had to leave teaching, go to a different career, a Social Security career, so that they wouldn't be punished by, this weird rule. So this is the Social Security website right now. Last updated January 2nd. So they do say, where is the sentence here? It has not been signed into law yet. So, the expectation is that will happen soon. So anyway, just wanted to get that out there. Hopefully there's some retirees out there who could benefit from this. And, some of those pensions don't even adjust for inflation. So at the very least, maybe there's somebody who could, kind of get a inflation benefit kind of from this.
And always a recommendation is to go to ssa.gov and get your actual Social Security statement. They used to mail these to us every year, and hey, I don't mind them cutting out the mailings because I can pull it up electronically. Although I have a file folder of all the old mailings they gave me just because I like looking at it. But there's like the standard kind of a 4-page document that you can print out that shows, here's all the money I've paid into Social Security. Maybe that's a scary number, or the Medicare. But more importantly, here's what my benefits would be at age 62, 67, or whatever your full retirement age is, and 70 years old. And it's always, when I meet with different clients, it's one of the first documents I like to look at, because it says, Social Security is coming someday. This is what you're expected to be paid, and it's a good number to know. And it's really weird, or I shouldn't say weird, it's very long how they do the calculation, because I think it's over your best 35 years of income. So that's a long timeline. So your best 35 years. So always recommend you go to ssa.gov. And there's a way to get your, you got to validate and set up your account, but then you can look at your Social Security statement. So with that, have a great weekend. I have to throw out Ohio State and Texas have advanced in the college football playoffs to play each other next Friday. This is where we have the office conflict.
Yeah, what's gonna happen, Mike?
I just feel like you guys are all going to be in mourning in there in Texas, and I'm going to have to help out. I hope for a good game and let the best team win, and then the winner plays Penn State and Notre Dame. So,
Are you and Steve placing any bet on this? Is there any jersey swap or any?
I just feel like Steve's too smart to place a bet. No, I just I
Ah,
would love to get him to bet, but I think he will not. So, anyways, I am definitely go Buckeyes, and but I've rooted for Texas until this moment. And as I left Texas yesterday, I had my Ohio State sweatshirt on, and I was actually even approached by a fellow Ohio State, brethren, like, hey, there's an Ohio State guy, so and Steve was like, be careful, it could be dangerous to wear that shirt now. So, anyways, have a great weekend, everybody. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye.